The Kraken fleet approaches. Admiral Elena Voss stood alone in the command center of Earth's most secretive military installation, observing the holographic map that sprawled across the massive wall in front of her. The tension in the room was palpable. Outside, the vast silence of space stretched beyond the thin shields of the moon's defense grid. It had been 15 years since the first signs of alien activity had been detected beyond Earth's solar system. Now, the Kraken Empire, an advanced race of conquerors from a distant star system, was finally within reach. Incoming. The sensor officer's voice cracked through the stillness, his words cutting through the air like a blade. The fleet was here, approaching fast. More than 300 ships, warships, and support craft, arrayed in formation like wolves closing in on a prey. Admiral Voss watched as the alien armada appeared on the hologram, its sleek vessels reflecting the cold, sterile light of the distant stars. But what they didn't know was that the Earth they saw before them was not the Earth they would encounter. How long until they arrive? Elena asked, her voice steady. Her eyes flickered to the corner of the room, where Earth's elite defense council appeared as holograms, their faces tense but composed. 72 hours, came the reply, this time from Dr. Khalid Ramir, Earth's lead scientist and strategist. The Kraken will arrive within that time frame. Their lead ships are equipped with sensor arrays that could pierce through most known cloaking systems. Not ours, Elena responded with a hint of pride. Activate Operation Mirage. Let's make them see what we want them to see. In the hidden recesses of the Earth, beneath layers of camouflage and disinformation, the true strength of humanity lay in wait. The Kraken, with their overwhelming technological superiority, had underestimated the ingenuity of a species they thought primitive. Earth's defenses were scattered across the solar system, disguised as nothing more than ancient relics to the untrained eye. Dr. Ramir nodded and began his calculations. The quantum dampening field is live. We'll have a few moments before they realize something's wrong. A quiet murmur ran through the room as the fleet activated its most advanced technology, hidden in plain sight for decades. Massive fleets of defense platforms lay dormant in asteroids scattered throughout the belt, waiting for their time to strike. The real fleet, disguised as nothing more than outdated satellites, lurked behind the moon, biding its time. We've been preparing for this for 15 years, Elena said, her gaze hardening as she turned toward the Council's holographic avatars. We've trained, we've planned, and we've deceived. The Kraken won't know what hit them. A voice from the Council spoke up. General Takashi Yamada, head of Earth's military operations, leaned forward, his brow furrowed. Admiral, we know their tactics. We've studied them. They'll try to overwhelm us with sheer force before offering protection in exchange for our submission. They think we're weak. They'll make the mistake of underestimating us. And when they do, we'll make them regret it. Elena looked at him, her expression cold and calculating. They won't even see it coming. The Kraken Empire had a long history of conquering species, using their superior technology to intimidate and force planets into submission. But the human race, always underestimated, had one advantage: an unwillingness to yield. For decades, Earth had played its part in the grand deception, pretending to be a primitive world with no real defense, when in truth, humanity had developed technology beyond the wildest dreams of its would-be conquerors. Dr. Remmer spoke again. The Kraken fleet is communicating with their advanced scouts. They've likely detected the quantum signature of our defense systems. They won't be able to decipher it in time. We've made sure of that. Elena allowed herself a small smile. Time. That's all we need. As the seconds ticked down, the Kraken fleet continued to approach, unaware that Earth's greatest weapon wasn't its military, but its resilience, its refusal to be conquered, and the ultimate advantage of surprise. The battle for Earth was about to begin, but the Kraken would learn too late that humanity was far more than the primitive species they had imagined. With one final glance at the approaching fleet, Elena turned to the console. "Ready the fleet," she ordered. It's time for them to realize they've made a terrible mistake. And so, as the Kraken prepared to strike, Earth's hidden forces stirred, ready to demonstrate the unyielding power of human ingenuity and will. The Kraken strike begins. The blackness of space was broken only by the distant stars, their light flickering like faint whispers in the abyss. Within the darkness, the Kraken fleet advanced, their colossal warships moving with the precision of a predator stalking its prey. Each ship was a masterpiece of alien engineering, gleaming metallic surfaces hiding the lethal firepower contained within. They had seen countless worlds fall before them, civilizations crushed under the weight of their superiority. They believed Earth would be no different. Admiral Kerr, commander of the Kraken fleet, stood in front of the command deck's main viewport, his eyes scanning the vast emptiness ahead. His dark blue skin shimmered under the artificial lighting, his four mandibles twitching as he processed the incoming data. The Earth had been detected, its primitive signals and weak defenses making it an easy target. This would be yet another effortless conquest. "Admiral, we're entering Earth's solar system," said a subcommander, his voice respectful yet filled with a hint of eagerness. "We'll begin our scans shortly. The humans won't know what hit them." Kerr nodded slowly, his many eyes narrowing in calculation. "Increase the speed," he ordered. "We'll show them our strength, make them realize the futility of resistance." But unbeknownst to Kerr, the humans were ready, prepared in ways he could never have imagined. Back on Earth, Admiral Elena Voss stood at the helm of her own flagship, the Phoenix. The ship was hidden in the shadows of the moon, surrounded by a fleet of technologically advanced vessels that the Kraken couldn't even dream of detecting. She had already ordered her team to prepare for the coming battle, her voice calm and unwavering. "Initiate Phase 1, she commanded. In an instant, the fleet's hidden weapons systems powered up, silent but deadly. Massive automated cannons nested within the craters of the moon stirred to life, their enormous barrels poised and ready to fire. Meanwhile, Earth's true fleet, cloaked by quantum dampening, began to emerge from the shadows of the asteroids surrounding the inner solar system. In the heart of the Kraken fleet, a young officer named Vrax stared at the array of screens before him. They had entered the solar system, and yet something felt off. The signals from Earth, which had once appeared to be chaotic and primitive, now seemed oddly absent. Where were the scattered communications, the faint traces of human activity that should have been everywhere? "Admiral Kerr," Vrax said, his voice tense, "I'm detecting anomalies. It's like the humans are hiding." Kerr turned slowly, the many eyes on his face narrowing in suspicion. "Hiding from us?" Vrax nodded, uncertainty creeping into his voice. "Yes, Admiral. The human communications are vanishing. There's something we're not seeing." Kerr's mandibles clicked together in thought. "Increase our scans, but don't alert them yet. We will not let them escape us. The Kraken are unstoppable." Meanwhile, Elena Voss had been watching the fleet's movements closely. She knew they were coming for Earth. They had underestimated humanity's ability to adapt, to deceive, and to fight. She had no illusions about how difficult the battle would be, but she also knew the Kraken had never faced an enemy like the one they had awakened today. As she surveyed the view from her flagship, Elena activated the communication system. "This is Admiral Voss to all units. The Kraken fleet is entering range. Prepare to initiate Phase 2. Let's show them what humanity is capable of." Across the solar system, Earth's defensive forces responded. The automated defense platforms, once dormant for centuries, powered up with a thunderous hum. Hidden weapons caches on the Moon and Mars came online, their targeting systems locking onto the enemy fleet. And in the asteroid belt, massive warships, undetected by the Kraken sensors, began to move. The first phase of deception had worked. The Kraken fleet, despite its overwhelming size, had walked right into Earth's trap. Admiral Kerr was now fully aware that something was wrong. The reports from his officers were becoming increasingly confused. Communications from Earth had all but vanished, and his ships were detecting strange energy signatures emanating from the solar system's outer reaches. "Something's happening," Vrax said, panic creeping into his voice. "Admiral, we're being surrounded. I don't know how, but they're here, waiting." Carr's eyes flashed with rage. "No matter what tricks they pulled, they cannot defeat us. Open fire. Show them the power of the Kraken." The command was issued, and the Kraken fleet unleashed its first volley. Beams of brilliant energy tore through the void, heading straight toward Earth's defensive systems. But as the weapons shot forward, something incredible happened. The energy beams were intercepted by nothing. Invisible shields shimmered into existence, deflecting each and every attack with precision. The Kraken had no idea they were targeting nothing but the empty vacuum of space. A blinding flash erupted near the moon, followed by a barrage of deadly projectiles. Earth's hidden weapons systems, silent and deadly, fired back with pinpoint accuracy, sending missiles streaking toward the Kraken ships. Explosions filled the darkness as several of the alien vessels were struck, their shields flickering before collapsing under the force of the blow. "What? How is this possible?" Carr roared, as his fleet began to suffer significant damage. His forces, once so confident in their superiority, were now reeling from the unexpected attack. "They tricked us. Retreat. We need to regroup and assess." But before he could finish, the true horror of Earth's defenses became apparent. From the shadows of the asteroid belt, Earth's hidden fleet emerged, its advanced warships cutting through the void like predators stalking their prey. The Kraken fleet was no longer just facing Earth's automated defenses. They were now up against an organized and highly trained military force, one equipped with weapons that the Kraken had no defense against. Admiral Voss's voice rang through the comms. "This is Earth. You made a mistake coming here. The Kraken may have conquered many worlds, but you will never conquer ours. Prepare for the consequences." The Kraken fleet was now in disarray. What had once seemed like a simple conquest had transformed into a fight for survival. For the first time in the history of their empire, the Kraken were on the defensive, and they had no idea how to fight a war they were never meant to lose. The battle had only just begun, but the Kraken would soon learn that humanity had something they could never hope to defeat: an unbreakable spirit, fueled by the power of resilience, ingenuity, and the unyielding will to survive. The Kraken's fury and humanity's resolve. The void of space was alive with the sounds of battle. Energy pulses, explosions, and the low hum of thrusters echoed through the darkness as the Kraken fleet found itself caught in a storm of unanticipated fury. Earth's hidden forces, once thought primitive and outdated, now revealed themselves in full force. The Kraken, stunned by the sheer scale of humanity's response, were beginning to realize the full extent of the mistake they had made. Admiral Carr's warship, Zykryn's Wrath, shook violently as one of Earth's missiles struck its outer shields. His many eyes darted around the command room, the sensors flashing with data. His fleet, a force once considered unstoppable, was now being torn apart by an enemy they had thought beneath them. "We need reinforcements," Carr bellowed, his voice full of fury. "Send the shock troops to Earth's surface. They will not get away with this." But before he could issue further orders, his second-in-command, Subcommander Vrax, stepped forward, his face twisted with doubt. "Admiral, our forces are scattered," Vrax said urgently. "The human fleet has us trapped between the asteroid belt and the moon. Their weapons are unlike anything we've encountered. And their defenses, they're deflecting our attacks as if we're throwing pebbles at them." Hare's mandibles twitched in frustration, but he couldn't deny the truth of Vrax's words. The human fleet, though far fewer in number, had managed to divide and isolate the Kraken forces, picking them off one by one with relentless precision. Earth's defense systems, unseen, undetectable, and devastatingly effective, had caught the alien invaders completely off guard. Meanwhile, on the ground, The battle raged on. Earth's military forces, stationed in strategic locations around the world, were working in unison, executing operations that had been rehearsed for decades. But these weren't just ordinary soldiers. These were humanity's finest warriors who had been trained to fight not for survival, but for victory. Lieutenant Ava Ramirez stood at the head of an elite team, overseeing the assault on one of the Kraken's command bases located deep within a cavern on the surface of Mars. The base was massive, an underground facility that served as a command center for one of the alien fleet's most powerful divisions. As her boots crunched on the dusty Martian soil, Ava's mind raced. Her team had been inserted behind enemy lines, tasked with crippling the aliens' ability to communicate with their fleet. "Team, move out," Ava ordered. The soldiers, equipped with advanced stealth suits, moved like shadows across the barren landscape, blending seamlessly with the terrain. They approached the base's outer perimeter, where an intricate web of alien drones patrolled the area. Despite their advanced technology, the drones couldn't detect the human soldiers, who had been trained to work under the radar. With a swift command, Ava and her team launched a series of EMP grenades into the heart of the drone swarm, disabling their sensors and rendering them useless. The team breached the outer security walls and entered the base undetected. Inside, they found the alien command center brimming with the latest Kraken technology. Giant holographic displays projected maps of Earth's cities, including strategic military targets. Ava's eyes narrowed. She could feel the weight of the mission pressing down on her shoulders. This wasn't just about defeating the Kraken. It was about proving to them that humanity would never bow down. "Set the charges," she said, her voice steady. "We destroy their ability to command. Let's cripple them before they even know we were here." Back in the heart of the conflict, Earth's space fleet continued to press the advantage. The Kraken were no longer the apex predators they once believed themselves to be. Their ships, powerful as they were no match for the precision and surprise of humanity's counterattacks. Earth's warships moved with fluid grace, launching volleys of fire that shattered Kraken vessels like glass. One by one, alien ships were falling, their once proud shields flickering and collapsing under the onslaught. Even the most advanced Kraken battleships, equipped with quantum defense systems and energy weapons, were now being overwhelmed by Earth's overwhelming strategy of patience, deception, and pure tenacity. Admiral Voss watched from the Phoenix as another Kraken destroyer exploded in the distance, its flames lighting up the cold vacuum of space. She stood tall in the command room, her face bathed in the soft light of the holographic displays. Despite the chaos, she felt an unshakable calm. Humanity was fighting back, and they were winning. "We've turned the tide, Commander," said Dr. Khalid Ramir, the lead strategist. His voice was filled with awe as he observed the data flowing across his screens. "The Kraken have lost half their fleet already, and they don't know how to respond. We've successfully breached their formations. Their communications are in chaos." Elena nodded, a tight smile crossing her lips. "This is just the beginning. The Kraken thought we would be easy prey. Now they see the truth." Meanwhile, far beyond the asteroid belt, the Kraken command ship, Zykrens Wrath, had taken another hit. A massive explosion rocked its exterior, throwing the crew into disarray. Kerr, his furrowed face showing a mix of rage and disbelief, gripped his command console, his multiple eyes darting across the data screens in front of him. "How is this happening?" Kerr roared. "These humans, they've been hiding their true power all this time. We cannot let them win." But as he screamed in frustration, the reality of their situation set in. They had underestimated the humans at every turn. The Kraken fleet, once thought unstoppable, was now surrounded and cornered in every direction. Vrax turned to Kerr, his voice tense. "Admiral, we have no choice. Our fleet is decimated. If we don't retreat now, we will be wiped out completely. We have no reinforcements, and our supply lines are severed." Kerr's mandibles ground together in fury. "Retreat? No, we will not flee from a lesser species. But as his ship rocked again, another volley of missiles tearing through its hull, Kerr realized that the Kraken's pride might be their downfall. The humans, against all odds, were showing the universe the full measure of their strength, and with each passing moment, the Kraken's grip on Earth was slipping further away. Back on Earth, as the battle raged, the soldiers, commanders, and engineers of humanity continued to fight with one single thought in mind: victory. They weren't just fighting for their survival. They were fighting to prove that no one, not even the mightiest conquerors in the universe, could break the spirit of humankind. And with each passing moment, humanity proved their strength was more than enough. The Kraken's last stand. The once mighty Kraken fleet was now a shadow of its former self. What had begun as an overwhelming show of technological supremacy had quickly turned into a desperate struggle for survival. The humans had not only anticipated their every move, but had countered with a ferocity and ingenuity that sent shockwaves through the heart of the Kraken Empire. Admiral Kerr stood in the center of the command room aboard Zycran's Wrath, his entire being radiating frustration and disbelief. His ship, once a proud symbol of the Kraken Empire's might, now groaned under the weight of its damage. The walls were scorched and cracked, the screens flickering in and out as if struggling to stay alive. His crew, a collection of the finest warriors the Kraken had ever produced, were now reduced to technicians and medics, frantically attempting to patch up a ship that was falling apart faster than they could repair it. "We can't keep this up," Vrax, his second-in-command, said quietly from the corner of the room. His eyes scanned the incoming data streams with a look of helplessness. "The humans have taken out our long-range communications. The remaining ships are either heavily damaged or completely disabled. Our weapons systems are failing." Kerr turned to face him, his mandibles snapping in anger. "I know what's happening, Vrax. I've seen it with my own eyes. But we cannot abandon the mission. If we retreat now, the Kraken will lose everything." Vrax's mandibles trembled, but he stood firm. "We've already lost, Admiral. The humans are everywhere. They've already crippled our fleet, and our remaining ships are scattered. Our reinforcements are still light years away. We can't afford to keep fighting like this." Kerr clenched his fists. The weight of failure hung heavy on his shoulders. The Kraken had always been conquerors, never the conquered. How could they be outwitted by a species they had dismissed as primitive? Back on Earth, Admiral Elena Voss stood in the command center of the Phoenix, watching the situation unfold. The battle had been fierce, and the Kraken fleet was beginning to falter, but Elena knew better than to let her guard down. The Kraken weren't the type to retreat without a fight. If they had one thing left, it was their pride. And pride, she knew, could be a dangerous thing. "Status report, Commander," she asked, her voice as steady as ever. "Admiral, the Kraken are in disarray. Their main fleet has taken severe damage, and most of their remaining ships are scattered across the system. Our forces are hitting them from all sides. We've successfully neutralized over 70% of their fleet, but we still need to remain cautious," Dr. Remer replied, his voice filled with awe and caution. "They're pulling back to regroup, but I don't believe they're giving up just yet. They'll try to make one last stand." "Not if we can help it," Elena muttered, her gaze fixed on the blinking holographic map of the battle. "Let's finish this." On the surface of Earth, the tide of battle had shifted in their favor as well. The Kraken's ground forces, which had begun landing on strategic cities across the planet, had been met with an unexpected resistance. Humanity's underground defenses, once considered old relics from the Cold War, had been upgraded and modernized, transforming into state-of-the-art weaponry capable of taking on even the most advanced extraterrestrial technology. In the ruins of a once thriving New York City, Colonel Isaac Calloway led a team of specially trained soldiers through the ravaged streets. The Kraken had begun deploying their ground assault units, giant mechs that could tear through steel and stone with ease, but Earth's forces had anticipated such a move. "Move out, team." Isaac barked as he crouched behind a collapsed skyscraper, scanning the horizon through a set of infrared goggles. We need to take out that lead Kraken mech before it tears through the last of our defenses. This is our moment, people. Let's make it count." The team of soldiers, equipped with experimental EMP devices and magnetic pulse grenades, moved in swift, coordinated silence. The Kraken mechs, large, towering figures of alien engineering, patrolled the area, unaware that Earth's soldiers were lurking just out of sight. The city's ruinous landscape was both a blessing and a curse. The crumbling buildings offered cover, but they also made it harder to spot targets. Suddenly, Isaac raised a fist. The squad froze. The lead Kraken mech, towering over 30 feet tall, stomped down the street toward them, its massive energy cannons charging. Its alien pilots, comfortable in their technological superiority, had no idea they were walking directly into the trap. "On my mark," Isaac whispered. "Wait for it. Wait. Now." A barrage of EMP grenades slammed into the mech, sending waves of electromagnetic energy into its systems. The Kraken pilot inside the suit let out a panicked shriek as the mech's systems failed, and the massive machine staggered, its weapons flickering out. Within moments, the soldiers surrounded the mech, launching their magnetic pulse grenades, causing it to collapse in a heap of sparks and fire. Isaac smiled grimly as he wiped sweat from his brow. "That's one down. Let's get the next." Meanwhile, the Kraken were desperate. Carr, standing at the center of the bridge, received the transmission that he had feared. It was from one of his last remaining warships, now crippled beyond repair and surrounded by humanity's advancing forces. "Admiral, we cannot hold out any longer. We—" The transmission cut out abruptly, and Carr felt his heart sink. They were losing. Earth was turning the tide on them, piece by piece. Their ships, their ground forces, their entire empire's might. It was all crumbling under the relentless determination of humanity. "Send out a final communication to the fleet," Carr ordered, his voice cold. "Tell them to prepare for the worst. This battle is lost, but we will return. The Kraken will not be defeated by a species like this. We will rebuild, and we will come back stronger." As the Kraken began to regroup and make their final retreat, Alina's voice rang out across the comms. "This is Earth's final warning, Carr. Leave our solar system now, or we will finish what we've started." But Carr, though filled with the sting of defeat, could not bring himself to answer. His pride would not allow him to surrender, even in the face of certain destruction. In the final moments of the battle, as the Kraken ships limped away, retreating into the depths of space, Earth stood victorious, its defenders, both in space and on the ground, having turned the tide of what could have been their extinction. But this was only the beginning. Humanity had sent a message to the galaxy. No matter the odds, no matter the enemy, humanity would not go quietly into the night. The Kraken had learned this lesson too late, and as they retreated, one thing became clear. The fight for Earth had ended, but the war for the future was just beginning. The reckoning of the Kraken. The silence that followed the retreat of the Kraken fleet was deafening. Earth's skies, once lit with the fiery explosions of alien warships, now stood still and tranquil. The threat that had loomed over humanity for so long had been momentarily vanquished, but the cost of victory weighed heavily on the hearts and minds of Earth's leaders. Admiral Alina Voss stood alone in the observation deck of the Phoenix, her eyes fixed on the distant stars. The lights of Earth flickered beneath her, a vibrant reminder of all that had been saved, but also a reminder of what had been lost. Though humanity had emerged victorious, the battle had taken its toll. Many lives were lost, and entire cities had been reduced to rubble. The Kraken may have been driven back, but they had left their mark on Earth. And no one on the planet would ever be the same again. "Admiral," a voice broke through her thoughts. Dr. Khalid Raymer stepped into the room, his face tired but resolute. "We've received transmissions from the remaining Kraken ships. They're regrouping, moving to an uncharted sector of space. It seems they're preparing for something we haven't seen before." Alina turned to him, her expression hardened. Are they planning another invasion? Dr. Ramir shook his head. No, I don't think so. But we've intercepted data indicating they're contacting other alien civilizations, perhaps calling for reinforcements, or allies. A chill ran down Alina's spine. The Kraken were known to be ruthless conquerors, and their pride had been shattered. But if they were reaching out to others, then the threat hadn't truly ended. Humanity had earned a hard-won victory, but it was clear that this was only the first chapter of an even greater war. We'll need to be prepared, Alina said, her voice steady. Get the message out to the Council. Earth's victory today means nothing if we don't use it to strengthen our defenses for the future. Meanwhile, across the solar system, the remnants of the Kraken fleet were beginning to move. The ships, badly damaged and scattered, began retreating to a barren moon orbiting a distant gas giant. There, deep within a hidden base, Admiral Carr and the last of his warlords convened. His pride had taken a blow, but his resolve had only hardened. We may have been defeated, Carr growled, his 6 alien eyes narrowed in fury, but Earth will not go unpunished. The Kraken Empire has endured far worse. We shall rebuild, and when we return, the humans will learn the true cost of defying us. Sub-Commander Vrax, standing at Carr's side, observed the scattered fleet in silence. It was clear to him that the Admiral was consumed by revenge, but they were no longer the unstoppable force they had once been. The humans had broken them in ways that went beyond mere destruction. They had cracked the very foundation of the Kraken's pride. We must be careful, Admiral. Vrax spoke cautiously. The humans are far more formidable than we believed. They've already outwitted us once. If we rush back in with arrogance, we could lose everything. Carr turned on him, his mandibles snapping. You doubt the Kraken, he hissed. I've seen their defenses. They are nothing but a fleeting advantage. We will rebuild our fleet, and we will crush them. I will not let this defeat be the end of us. Vrax bowed his head, but deep inside, doubt began to gnaw at him. The Kraken were indeed formidable, but so too were the humans. They had fought not just with advanced technology, but with something far more dangerous, human ingenuity and an unyielding will to survive. If the Kraken returned, they would face a humanity that had been forged in the fire of war, a humanity that would never surrender. Meanwhile, back on Earth, humanity was beginning to recover, though the scars of the conflict ran deep. The United Earth Defense Council convened in a newly built command center deep within the Earth's crust, far from the remnants of the cities that had been ravaged. The representatives from all nations, once divided, now sat together, united under a single banner. Admiral Voss, the chairperson of the council, a stern woman named Maria Santos, began. The victory against the Kraken is historic, but we can't afford to rest. We've seen their might, their tactics, and their unrelenting nature. We must begin to prepare for what comes next, and we need to do it now. Alina nodded, her expression grim. The Kraken will rebuild, and they will come again. We've seen the first signs of that. But we've also learned something crucial. They underestimated us, and we can use that to our advantage. We've had decades of peace to develop our technology and strategies, but now it's time to move faster, to think beyond our planet. She paused, allowing the weight of her words to settle in. We must not only prepare for the Kraken's return, we must be ready for whatever else the galaxy may throw at us. Humanity has earned its place in this universe, and we will defend it. We will become more than just a footnote in history. We will become the hammer. Across the room, the various council members exchanged looks, some of them hesitant, others filled with determination. The idea of humanity pushing further into space, establishing itself as a force to be reckoned with, was a bold and dangerous one. But it was the only option if they hoped to survive. We'll need more than just military strength, Dr. Ramir added, his voice laced with urgency. We'll need alliances. We need to show the galaxy that Earth is not just a small planet to be crushed by anyone who comes along. We need to find others who share our ideals. People who can help us stand against the Kraken and anyone else who might threaten us. Alina considered this for a moment, then nodded. Agreed. We'll open diplomatic channels with any peaceful civilizations we can find. But make no mistake, our first priority will be securing Earth's borders. We cannot afford to wait for the next attack to come to us. As the meeting concluded, Alina felt a growing sense of responsibility settle upon her shoulders. The Kraken had been a deadly foe, but there were bigger forces at play in the universe. The knowledge that other civilizations, some hostile, some neutral, were out there made Earth's survival even more uncertain. The galaxy was vast, and humanity had only just begun to scratch the surface of its true potential. But one thing was clear: humanity's spirit had been forged in the heat of battle. They had faced an overwhelming threat and stood tall. And now, they would fight for their place in the stars. On the distant moon where Kair's fleet was regrouping, the sound of alien machinery whirring to life filled the silence. The Kraken were preparing their next move, but unbeknownst to them, Earth was already preparing theirs. And this time, humanity would not wait to be struck first. The next chapter in the saga of Earth's survival was about to unfold, and it would be a story that the galaxy would never forget. The New Horizon. The stars shimmered coldly beyond the vastness of space as Admiral Alina Voss stood at the helm of the Phoenix, staring into the unknown. The Kraken had retreated, but the aftermath of the battle had left its mark on every corner of humanity. Earth had survived, barely, yet the fragility of their existence had never been more apparent. The victory against the Kraken had been hard-earned, but it was only a temporary respite. Something deeper was stirring in the far reaches of the galaxy, something that would soon challenge Earth in ways they could not yet comprehend. As the Phoenix glided through space toward the newly established defense perimeter at the edge of the solar system, Alina felt the weight of the future pressing on her. She had been part of humanity's survival against the Kraken's invasion, but the next steps were not so clear. Earth needed to rebuild, yes, but it also needed to adapt, to evolve in the face of unknown threats that had just begun to show their teeth. "Admiral, we're receiving a signal," Commander Liam Davis announced from the communications console. It's not Kraken. It's a new signal, encrypted, but we've broken through their codes." Alina's heart skipped a beat. The Kraken may have been retreating, but this was something else, something unexpected. She turned sharply toward the comm station. "Put it through, now." The holo-communication flickered to life, showing a strange alien face. It was a species Alina had never seen before, a humanoid figure with smooth, silvery skin, a wide, sharp face, and piercing blue eyes that seemed to glow with intelligence. The alien spoke, its voice rich but tinged with urgency. "Admiral Voss, I am Commander Kell of the Nexari Alliance. I come in peace, but my message is one of warning." Alina's brow furrowed. "A warning? From whom? And why now?" Kell's expression grew darker. "The Kraken are but one of many warlike factions in this sector of the galaxy. They have already begun contacting others. But the real danger is far greater. There is a power, an ancient civilization, known as the Seraphon Collective. They are unlike anything you have ever encountered, and their expansion is unstoppable. The Kraken's retreat is not the end of your battle. It is only the beginning." Alina's pulse quickened. She had fought hard to protect Earth from one deadly force, and now another shadow loomed over her people. The Seraphon Collective. She'd never heard of them, but the grave tone in Kell's voice made it clear that this was a threat Earth could not ignore. "Why are you contacting us?" Alina asked, her voice steady despite the surge of uncertainty that gripped her. "Why now?" Kell's gaze shifted slightly, and there was a brief pause before he spoke again. "The Seraphon are a ruthless empire. They consume entire systems, planets, civilizations, all reduced to nothing but ash. The Kraken, as you've already experienced, are just a part of the many forces they manipulate. The only reason we've survived as long as we have is because we've united against them, but we cannot fight them alone. You, humans, have shown an extraordinary resilience, a will to survive that surpasses anything we have seen in the galaxy. I offer you this, an alliance, the Nexari Alliance and Earth, together, against the Seraphon. A long silence fell over the bridge of the Phoenix. Elena was stunned, trying to process the enormity of Kel's words. She had always known that Earth's battle against the Kraken was not just about defending their planet. It was about sending a message to the universe. But now, the galaxy was speaking back, and the message was clear. Earth was no longer a backwater world to be ignored or exploited. Earth was becoming a player on the galactic stage, whether they were ready for it or not. "Commander Kale," Elena said, her voice calm but filled with resolve. "We don't know anything about this Seraphon collective, but we've learned something very important in our fight against the Kraken. Humanity doesn't bow. We fight. We survive. And we will stand against this new threat, just as we stood against the Kraken. You have our support." Kale nodded slowly, a hint of approval in his eyes. "I knew you would understand. There is much you need to learn, Admiral. The Nexari are not a vast force like the Kraken, but we are ancient, and we have faced the Seraphon before. Together, we can build a coalition that might stand a chance. But time is short. The Seraphon will come for you, just as they came for us, and we must prepare." Elena turned to her crew, her decision already made. "Set course for the Nexari homeworld," she ordered. "We need to learn everything we can about the Seraphon and how to fight them. It's time we stopped being reactive. We need to take the fight to them." As the crew of the Phoenix began to prepare for the long journey across the galaxy, Elena couldn't shake the feeling that this new alliance, this fragile hope, might be their last. The Seraphon were unlike any enemy humanity had faced before. They were not just conquerors. They were exterminators, eradicating entire species without mercy. And if the Nexari were right, humanity's brief moment of victory over the Kraken might be nothing more than the calm before the storm. Back on Earth, the United Earth Defense Council convened once more. Elena's message had been clear. Earth was entering a new phase of its existence, one that demanded unity, preparation, and a willingness to adapt to the unknown. The Kraken had tested them, but the Seraphon would be a far greater challenge. The world's leaders had no choice but to come together once again, not just to defend their planet, but to protect their place in the stars. "We've always known that Earth was destined for something more," Chairperson Maria Santos said, her voice firm as she addressed the council. "But this is something beyond our wildest imaginings. We face a threat unlike any we've ever encountered. We must work together, nations, species, and all of humanity. Only by joining forces can we hope to survive what's coming." "Agreed," Dr. Khalid Ramir added. "We've had decades of peace, but now we must face the future with strength. The Seraphon are not just another enemy. They are a force that could wipe us out entirely. We must unite, learn, and advance our technology if we are to stand a chance." Elena knew that their survival would depend on more than just military power. It would depend on innovation, unity, and the will to overcome the impossible. The Seraphon would not be a quick battle. It would be a war that would test humanity's resilience like never before. But for the first time in a long while, Elena felt a spark of hope. Humanity had faced impossible odds before, and they had won. Together with the Nexari, they could rise once more, defying all expectations. If the Seraphon thought they could crush Earth as easily as they had the other civilizations, they would soon learn that humanity had no intention of going quietly into the void. As the Phoenix set its course toward the Nexari homeworld, Elena's resolve solidified. The fight for Earth was far from over. It had just begun. The galaxy had no idea what it was about to witness.